right, we have more news coming in at this point in time. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President have held key talks. The Prime Minister's just tweeted talking about it. Spoke with President Putin today, discussed measures to further strengthen special and privileged strategic partnership, exchanged perspectives on Russia-Ukraine conflict, and my insights from the recent visit to Ukraine. Reiterated India's firm commitment to support an early, abiding and peaceful resolution of this conflict, says the Prime Minister in his tweet. I'm going to go straight across to Gaurav. More details on that story. Gaurav, all eyes, in fact, on these conversations and this meeting, essentially this particular conversation that the Prime Minister has had with the Russian President in the context of how difficult this has also really become for New Delhi, given that this indeed is a very tightrope walk when it comes to diplomacy, isn't it?
It's a very major role that India appears to be playing at this point. What has the Prime Minister said? He said, exchange perspectives on the Russia-Ukraine conflict and my insights from the recent visit to Ukraine, reiterated India's firm commitment to support an early, abiding and peaceful resolution of the conflict. Now, do keep a couple of things in mind. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Russia on the 8th of July. He had a very long meeting with President Putin, a meeting where there was only Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Putin and the interpreters, and they exchanged some ideas there. Those ideas the Prime Minister then carried to Ukraine, met President Zelensky. A conversation that was supposed to last about half an hour lasted close to 3 hours. So it overshot its time. There was then very little time for delegation level talks because the two heads of state and government spent about 2.5, close to 3 hours talking about their perspectives on conflict resolution. Then just late yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi received a call from US President Joe Biden. Again, a long conversation that discussed Ukraine and the perspective that the Prime Minister had. So remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is perhaps the only leader in the world with a very unique perspective of engaging both with the Russian leadership, trusted by the Russian leadership, the Ukrainian leadership, trusted by the Ukrainian leadership, and the American leadership. He's engaged with all three and they're looking forward to a forward movement. What that forward movement is, what the resolution would be, still remains work in progress, but this just shows India playing a much bigger role on the world stage in a situation where the Prime Minister is meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky and the US President, the conversation with Ford. It's a win-win for all stakeholders and forward movement perhaps in this conflict that has entered a very dangerous phase, Sneha.
Right, Gaurav. Also, this is important. This meeting is important from the point of view of the recent statements that has been made by Prime Minister Modi in his visit to Ukraine, wherein he said that it's not that we are neutral, we have taken a side, and that side is that of peace. It's a significant statement that he made a few days ago.
India's had a consistent policy, Sneha. You'd notice whether when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Moscow or in Ukraine, or India's consistent policy since the time of the outbreak of this conflict in February 2022. India's maintained one line that you cannot find a solution in the battlefield. Whatever is the conflict, a solution has to be found on the diplomatic table through conversation. So dialogue and diplomacy in a peaceful environment is the way forward in any conflict. Incidentally, this is India's consistent stand in every conflict situation, whether it's tension between India and China at the line of actual control or the situation that India now appears to be playing a key role in. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has had multiple engagements even with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of G7, whether it was in Japan, in Formosa or in Italy or before that in the United Kingdom. He's had and plus a number of phone calls. So he knows President Zelensky's mind. He knows President Putin's mind. And India is in a unique position. Look, America is on one side. America is not trusted by Russia.
Yes.
Other countries in Europe are also on one side. China is in the Russian camp. India is the only country that's not in any camp, is detached and is looking at the situation and is trusted by all camps. So what India says perhaps may just carry weight in the times ahead.
All right, interesting that you tell us that, of course, India, one country that is in conversation with both sides, and that's what the Western media has also taken note of and spoken about, a delicate balancing act that the Prime Minister here seems to be doing.